This channel is supported by TrueFire. TrueFire is an online library of lessons from some of my favourite players. There's thousands of lessons on there. You can use the promo code JNC40 to get 40% off of any of their courses.
sales season at TrueFire at the moment. TrueFire sponsor this channel, and in return, I like to point out some things on TrueFire that I really like. Eric Johnson, who is actually probably the first player actually playing a Fender amp that I got into, because he has, Fender Twins basically for his clean tone. He has a course on there, Masterclass, and an In the Jam, so there's 2 courses on there. You can use the code JNC40 to get 40% off of their courses, or use the code JNC100 to get $100 off their All Access Pass. The idea of the All Access Pass I think is really great because you can dip in and out of all of the courses on there. So for instance, Tim Lurch has some amazing kind of chord melody stuff, which I think is really kind of beneficial for the real world and really practical. As well as Tim Miller has an amazing course on there, kind of some new ideas around this 2-1-2 arpeggio stuff. There's of course Robin Ford on there, Andy Timmons on there, an amazing player, and some really great stuff on there from him. Andy Wood has courses on there. So I think also if you're into acoustic, Tommy Emmanuel, there's loads of great value on there. So the All Access Pass, I think, pay for the year and then dip in and out of whichever courses, for the price of a couple of lessons with a real guitar teacher. TrueFire. I've bought and sold a lot of amps over the years. I think this one, the Fender Pro Reverb from 1965, I think it is in the first batches of Pro Reverbs ever made. It's had a couple of modifications, 2 EV speakers in it, these handles were put on it, and the transformers were upgraded. Anyway, so basically for many years I used amps sort of like this Mesa Boogie Nomad 45, which is on eBay. This was the first kind of proper tube amp that I bought, and for years I kind of had it in mind that amplifiers with channel switching were kind of better value for money, and maybe that's still the case, but I also think that generally the cleans on them I found not as pleasing as on something like this. Now obviously this is an example which is quite a posh kind of thing, a vintage Fender tube amplifier, but I think actually what kind of changed my mind on this, I can remember playing in a practice room with a friend of mine in London, Isaac, and there was a Fender Princeton kind of Silverface reissue there, and I just plugged into that for the session, we just jammed, and I was like, that is a better clean than I've ever had anywhere else. Just really enjoyed just playing straight into that, and that is exactly the experience that I get with the Pro Reverb, and also that Sir Bella that was of Jake's that I borrowed the other day. They're just fantastic kind of, there's nothing I think that feels quite as good if you're just using the amp as plugging into the front of a Fender style amplifier. Another great amp that I tried was the vintage Fender Silverface Champ that I bought. I only had that for a short while, but that was an amazing sounding thing as well. I think part of the charm with the Fender stuff is that you kind of get that basic, chimey, spanky, splashy kind of tone with basically all of the Fender cleans, right? Because I think a lot of them share pretty similar preamp circuitry. Anyway, so this amplifier, there's only one problem with it, 2 problems with it. One is that it makes a little bit of background noise, but you don't hear that when you're playing it. And then the other is that it's punishingly heavy because it's got 2 EV speakers in it, which together weigh about 16 kilograms on top of what is already a 2x12 Fender style amplifier. So for that reason, I can't really gig it with my back, but incredible amplifier. I just wanted to kind of do a little bit of a video on it, and yeah, I do think that I compared it to the Sir Bella. Me and Jake had it in the same room. It sounds pretty similar, to be honest. I think they're probably the same basic preamp circuitry, probably because they're based on the same sort of era of Fender stuff. This is my only other real amplifier that I'm thinking probably I'll keep around. This is the Rift Matchless Lightning, which is essentially like an AC, the EF86 channel, isn't it? This sounds really good as well. The thing I found with these is that just plugging straight into them is more enjoyable. There's no effects loops to worry about or anything like that, and I've found that as kind of been a bit of a revelation because I've been thinking about 4-cable method and all that sort of stuff for many, many years. With the clean style amplifier, you just plug into the front of it and go for it. I have the treble here at about 4 the bass at about 4 and a bit more, and the reverb I had at about 3. Here that's still making noise, so thanks for not sorting that tech. And then the volume, obviously you can vary, but here it's at about 3. It's kind of really loud. But in the intro, to start off with, I was just playing straight into the amplifier. The only thing I might add to that would probably be like a compressor. So I got a Keeley tone workstation here, so compressor on for that. Kind of takes the edge off a bit, fattens it up. Bright switch here. I don't see myself ever needing to use that. But I didn't necessarily think that Fender tones were this fat, but it's just incredible sounding, I think. And then I was also using this, which is the Barber BUSS bus. The 5-watt whirl pedal in blues breaker mode. What I was thinking for live use, my normal pedal board has a Boss Angry driver on it here. So for instance, my clean would be going from for my lead. I was actually looking at the Wampler gearbox from Andy Wood for this sort of thing, because that has kind of a gate built into it, which when you're doing that kind of gain stuff with the like Marshall Governors type thing, it might be a good idea. But it can do it all. I think that's kind of the thing that I've kind of figured out about these clean amps. If you've got a really good sounding clean amp, it can be the platform for everything else, and the drive pedals sound better on it. You know, I'm thinking that most people these days tend to use pedals, and a lot of times I see people talk about channel switching amps. They're only using the clean channel often anyway, so why not just go for a better clean channel in general? And I think for me, Fender seem to do it the best, probably. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. What do you think it sounds like? To me, obviously it can do the classic Fender clean stuff really well, but even the you know, when you're chucking loads of gain into it, I think it sounds incredible. So, yeah, it does make me wonder why Eric Johnson doesn't. I think he does sometimes tour with just deluxe reverbs these days. But just going into the clean amp with a few drive pedals, I think sounds great. You don't necessarily need a whole amp switching rig. One of the things that I do think is slightly wasted on these kind of classic amplifiers is that, to be honest, for me, I'm really only ever going to be using the vibrato channel, I think, because I like the reverb on there so much that I'd be plugging into that. So in a way, there's sort of like a wasted channel on it. And in some ways, I guess this is probably what people have done that have been designing amps for years. Like maybe if you just had the vibrato channel and then you could have the normal kind of modded to, I don't know, turn that into your Dumble style channel or something like that. I guess people must have been doing that for years, but it kind of makes sense to me that essentially you do have a 2-channel amp here, right? It's got the normal and the vibrato. I think the Caesar mod does something around that, right? On the Vibro Verb. Because I think that basically puts reverb onto both channels. I don't know. Rambling.